could be good buying opportunities in the future. So you see some of these airline companies are kind of being destroyed. The Airbnbs and Booking.coms are kind of at all-time lows. So, with that, there comes opportunities as well, depending on your pain threshold or your willingness to take risk.
Could you please tell us about the challenges that you are facing right now and how you are trying to deal with the current situation?
Yes, well, as you know, travel has been sort of the epicenter for the coronavirus, in terms of, with the borders being closed and then, no flights kind of really in and out of the country for tourism. It's really had a direct impact on our business. Although we are in more of a midterm market versus the short-term providers, so we have seen a lot of companies like the Airbnbs, the Booking.coms, and more of the short-term providers got hit really hard. We are seeing some positive developments in that we are getting a lot more listings coming on board from the Airbnbs as people shift from short-term to more midterm. So we've seen a lot of new inventory coming on the platform. We've actually doubled our inventory from all of last year just within the last couple of months. And then we're also seeing actually affordability has become a big piece of it as well, where actually the inventory is getting a lot more affordable than it was a couple months ago. So that's been a positive development, and we're just kind of waiting for things to open up back again. We think most of our business will probably be more oriented towards local travel is what we're imagining as we go forward throughout the summer, but we're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen next.
Are there any new initiatives that you are implementing to deal with this situation?
At the moment, for us, it's just been trying to adjust to this new reality. We had some plans to do some geographic expansion. We've actually pulled back on that a little bit. We just didn't feel like the timing was right to be going out and trying to attract new hosts in new markets. We've put that on hold temporarily until the travel bans are lifted and borders are opened. So that's been we've slowed things down a bit. So I think with our business, we talk a lot about slow travel. With that being the trend for digital nomads is the idea of staying in a place usually on average for about 3 months at a time. We are seeing the stays are extending longer. Now we're seeing stays that are averaging closer to 6 months at a time. I think the industry is just going through some changes. We've made some big shifts because we used to do a lot of offline events. And now we're focusing a lot of the online events. And so one of the things we used to do was have a big social event each month during the summer for our whole community. We've moved that event online. And instead of it just being an evening activity, we actually have a 24-hour party we've been putting on for ecstatic dance. And we just finished one this weekend with over 1,200 attendees. So we've gone kind of from local to global pretty quickly.
How do you see the future of digital nomadism with all this going on right now?
Yeah, well, I think at the moment, everything's slowed down a bit. So I think what you're going to see with the digital nomads is instead of going into the big cities, they're looking to go more remote. That's something we've always promoted since we started the company. I think a lot of the nomads traditionally have gone to the bigger cities like the Lisbons in Portugal or to Porto, for example. I think what we're going to see happening going forward is the digital nomads spreading out to more remote locations where they don't have as many of the restrictions or fear of infection. So we think that's going to be a big thing as we go forward. Obviously, affordability is going to be a big thing. Nomads will be moving more slowly. So instead of jumping around as much to different locations, we think once they come to a place, they're going to tend to stay at that place for a while. And then the other big thing we're seeing is obviously this big shift to remote work. Even here in Portugal, where a lot of companies were thinking about remote work and they've been kind of inquiring about it. But now that everyone's gone remote, we just see the whole lifestyle around digital nomadism and around remote work accelerating. So we think coming out of all this, we're going to have a lot of opportunity. There are going to be more digital nomads than ever before. We think longer term is going to accelerate the development of this industry quite a bit. So we think there's going to be a lot of good coming out of it, at least on our end. In the short term, though, it's definitely caused a big disruption in the industry. So yet to be seen kind of what's going to happen for the rest of this year. But I think as we look out forward to 2021, 2022, we're definitely seeing that the industry is just accelerating and more people are going to be adapting to this lifestyle much faster than we ever imagined. I think, yeah, it's just I think there's the nomads have been early adapters. So I think the nomads have actually adapted very well. So I think the one thing you'll see is that the nomads are very comfortable being uncomfortable. They're very comfortable using remote technologies. A lot of them have, businesses that are fairly resilient to this, although some of them have been hit hard because they are freelancers and contractors. So I think that's the biggest concern at the moment is just, their freelance business or their entrepreneurial business is being hit. But I think once this pandemic is over, those are all going to come back on track. But generally, we've seen the nomads adapting very, very well. So they're used to working from home. So, I think for most people, that's something new. For the nomads, it's not. Typically, the nomads, they don't have children. They tend to be either single or couples. So, not having to deal with the issues that parents are having to with children being at home and trying to work remotely for the first time. So we've seen actually the nomads have adapted really, really well. So we don't really see much of a shakeup. If anything, it's just going to hopefully encourage more and more people to become nomads as we go forward, and just extending their remote work, from their home or from a co-working space to the road would be what we would envision going forward.
Do you think Lisbon will continue to remain a top destination for digital nomads in the coming months and years?
I definitely think so. Lisbon is like one of their favorite cities, obviously because of the quality of life, the being right on the coastal areas. The food is awesome. So I think if anything, what we're going to see is, people are going to be coming back to Lisbon. They're going to be going back to Porto. But what we hope coming from Nomadx is actually people explore further into Portugal and start going to some of these other areas, like the Ericeras, like the Peniches, like even to the islands, to the Azores Islands and Madeira Islands, and coastal areas all along the coast here are just so beautiful. So I think hopefully it'll expand the horizons of the nomads where they're looking for something a little different than before. So that's what we're hopeful of. Yet to be determined, but we think it's going to recover. It's going to recover better than ever. This year is just going to be a little bit slow, is the only thing. Yeah, we're just excited to be here in Portugal. We think we've got about 2,000 listings on the platform. Over half of those are in Lisbon. We've got a nice grouping up in Porto. We've got a lot of listings all throughout the country. So we're just, super excited for the industry. It's unfortunate it slowed it down a bit, but with slowing things down, sometimes it allows you to focus and take some actions you might not have taken otherwise. So we're optimistic, although we're kind of in slow mode at the moment. We're excited about it. We still want to put on events. We think that Portugal is a great country to be. We think this is really the place where nomads, where nomads come to die. They always come back to Lisbon and they want to set up their homes here. So we don't see that slowing down. And if anything, the affordability of Lisbon is going to even be better than it was the previous years. I know that was halting some of the travel for digital nomads because the affordability is so important to them. But I think with this recent crisis, things are more affordable now, and maybe even more options. So I think that'll help lure more digital nomads to come, try out Portugal, return to Portugal, and maybe even make Portugal their home in the future.
And Dave, you are quite experienced in investment. In which areas do you think people should invest these days?
That's a good question. I think, the technology companies that are out there, I think that take advantage of remote work technologies are good investments, although a lot of these companies have been escalating quite a bit recently. So, companies like the DocuSigns, companies like Slack, even some of these bigger technology companies, I think are well positioned. Sort of yet to be seen, because I think the economic fallout of what's happened here is just starting to be realized. So I think at the moment, I think a lot of the investors are sitting on the sidelines. Some are taking advantage of investment opportunities. But I think specifically like in our category, the travel segment, we're seeing investors saying, let's push back another 3 to 6 months in terms of investment. We were actually looking to do a crowdfunding campaign, which was supposed to launch in April or May. We've pushed that off another 3 to 6 months just to wait until the industry gets back on track. So I think, for companies, it's affecting the companies because their valuations may not be as high. So that's a good opportunity for investors. Some segments are doing better than others. Obviously, travel has been really affected, but those could be good buying opportunities in the future. So you see some of these airline companies are kind of being destroyed. The Airbnbs and Booking.coms are kind of at all-time lows. So, with that, there comes opportunities as well, depending on your pain threshold or your willingness to take risk.